welcome to today's video. My name is Ajane. I am a medical licensed social worker. So I am in the perinatal space. I'm a perinatal social worker. What does that mean? I work in OB care. So I work with an OBGYN, work with several OBGYNs within a clinic setting. I'm an outpatient social worker, but I also collaborate with inpatient. My previous job, I kind of did a combination of both. I was inpatient and outpatient, but my overall job was outpatient social work, so I don't want you guys to be like too confused. I'm currently doing just outpatient, but like I said, I give report, I get updates and things like that from the hospital social workers and work with other medical professionals and disciplines within the hospital setting when caring for our patients. So that is a little spiel about me. So I wanted to do this video because I've gotten questions about my social work status, and so I kind of wanted to just do a short little video just explaining kind of like my journey, how I got to this specific place, where I am in my supervision, and etc. So I hope that you guys are interested in seeing this video and can get some wisdom, or maybe it could be confirmation about your current plan or route in social work, what you hope, what you have already kind of decided, but maybe this could be a new perspective for you. So I'm hoping that this gives you worth, this has value for you regardless. I know that it will do something for someone, if not for myself. So let's get straight into the video. Okay, so when I was a BSW student, I didn't really know about the LCSW track. I knew that a lot of my professors were LCSWs, and so I just thought that you kind of gotten that once you finish masters, and I didn't really know that there was going to be test and studying and needing to know mental health diagnosis and medications and interventions and things like that. And I just wasn't educated in that. I don't really recall being taught in school, in my BSW program more specifically, that there were so many different routes and avenues to social work. I was aware that there were the more traditional paths and jobs for social workers, and I just assumed that I would work with children most, if not all, of my career. And I knew that I didn't really want to work with veterans and older adults, hospice type settings. So that's kind of what I knew at that point. And I didn't really have a lot of knowledge, as far as I can recall, about what it took to become an LCSW. And so I went to a school that had an accredited and accelerated program. I ended up going through the accredited and accelerated program, and it was what I didn't even know at the time, really, really pivotal into getting into graduate school and being able to cut down the amount of time that I was in graduate school. So if you are a BSW and or you're about to explore social work in any capacity, no matter what, if you're going through a BSW or MSW, you need to find an accredited program. Make sure that it is accredited. That is the only thing that I would absolutely tell you is a must-have. If you are a BSW, then try to find a program that will allow you to have advanced standing when you go into your master's program. So that cuts down a year sometimes, if not maybe a little bit more, depending on your GPA, what classes that you took before you go into your master's program. And so that was really important to me because I knew that I didn't want to go into more federal debt. I didn't want to take out loans for graduate school, and it was already a limited process in the first place to go through graduate school and get that paid. And so I honestly just had a lot of faith in God at that time and just really dedicated to his plan and his will for my life, and really challenged him to show up in ways that I hadn't experienced before. And when I tell you that he did that, he really did. I don't have any debt from my MSW program, and so really, really extremely grateful for that, because that would have been a minimum of $20,000 that I would have had to try to figure out how to pay at this point in my life. And so I did take out loans and things for my undergrad. But I went through undergraduate school, and like I said, I was an accredited and an accelerated program. And I ended up kind of like not really knowing what I wanted to do as far as like where I wanted to move post like my undergrad. And I did know that I did want to try to work for about a year before I really pursued my master's. But before I really came to that conclusion, I did apply to 2 schools for my MSW program, and the applications were very rushed, and they weren't like really thought out. They weren't really done right. And so I can't recall if I got accepted into one of them, but not the other. And I know that it was like later on, especially in the semester when I applied. And so I don't even know if one had space. Regardless, I was like, you know what? This is a sign for me to take the year to try to find a job and get into the field, start making some money and get some experience and actually figure out if this is something that I actually want to do. And so I ended up moving back home, A, to save money, and B, at the time, a lot of my friends were in the city that I was interested in moving in, and a lot of my social work friends went to the same program in another city. And so I was going the complete opposite way, while a lot of my social work friends were going to school and or staying in that area and waiting a year to apply for the next, calendar year. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that like if I waited another year like some of my class was, then there were higher chances still that I would know people within the program and be able to like navigate that again with people that I was familiar with and have already like done a lot of like social work things with. And so I took a leap of faith, moved back home, and in that process I was able to get a job at a Head Start program, and I was what they call like a family service worker. That was like the actual job title. And I just like did a lot of like intakes for the families that wanted to enroll their children or child into the program. And I assessed needs. I didn't know that I was doing like certain level of like interventions with the families, but I like helped connect them to resources as a mandated reporter. But I don't recall like making a lot of DCS referrals or whatever you want to call them, children's division referrals. And I think that when they did need to be done, a lot of the like teachers or like our program manager ended up doing it. And so I wasn't like really too familiar with even like DCS at that time. And so you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. That wasn't really taught in schools, like how to, obviously like each state has a little bit of a different process. This one hair is like really bothering me. Different process. And so I wasn't really familiar with like DCS referrals until I got done with my master's program, to be completely honest and transparent. So like if you feel like you're behind or that you don't know things and that you're like, oh, I haven't done that yet. Like there's a lot of things that I think you just have to get into the field and experience and unfortunately find out as you go through the field and your profession that you're gonna like get and learn new things. And I know that like with jobs, they obviously have a certain level of expectation for you, but also there's a lot of trainings and things that they'll review and conferences that you can participate in so that you can like gain more knowledge, have a mentor or someone like me who's on the internet who can show you the things that you could be looking into, or how to build certain muscles and skills and develop certain things and implement them into like how you practice. And so I did that. And at the time, I knew at that point, after a few months of working, that I didn't want to pursue my MSW. I knew that I wanted more opportunities for jobs, and I didn't want to feel limited. I didn't want to ever regret not at least trying to get my MSW. And I wanted more money. To be completely honest, I wasn't making a lot of money at all. And I was working minimum 40 hours, but at the most, like on an average week, I probably worked 45 minimum, and that was like normal just because I would have to get there so early in the morning, and then we couldn't just leave the kids if the parents didn't come pick them up at the right time. So I would end up staying at after the pickup time in order to make sure that kids got home and things of that nature, and then like to help close up the school, make sure everything was like done properly. And yeah, I knew that I wanted to do that. And so before the end of fall, my first job, I ended up applying to some MSW programs. I applied to at minimum 3 and no more than 4. I definitely did 3 that I can like easily recall off the top of my head. And it wasn't until I think end of spring that I started to hear back from the MSW programs about like acceptances. 2 of them were out of my current city, and then 1 of them was still out of my city that I was living in St. Louis, and it was an hour and a half away, and then the other 2 were about 3 hours away on the other side of the state, and they were in person, and then 1 of them was online. And after doing a lot and as much thorough information and weighing out the costs and the benefits of the program, one program I immediately took them off my list, because on my acceptance letter I recall them like spelling my name wrong or something like that a few times, and I was just like, no thank you, you can't even get my name right. No. And so it came down to 2 schools, one that I like dreamed of going, and I was like really so excited to go and to also be with my friends who I had did my bachelor's with, and some of them were, you know, going to be going in with me, and then there was going to be some that were already there who had just completed their first year, and by the time I got there they would have been going into their second year. And that was really appealing to me. I really loved the idea and concept of, like I said, being around like my other social work friends and having that community, and that was already kind of like established. And so after weighing out that like what I really wanted versus what I needed and how I could best set up my life, I decided to go with the online school because it was cheaper just overall. I can't remember as far as like the program cost, like what the difference was. And if I find it, I will put it down here. But if I don't find it, then sorry. But I didn't want to be in debt, like I said, and I wanted to be able to save as much money as I could so that after my master's program, I wouldn't be limited to, obviously, you know, needing to just pay the big man back and feeling that burden and that weight on me, because I already had like felt it. And that point there was just a lot of confusion because I wasn't like the first one to ever go to college, but at that time I think that I was the first one to in my generation to go through like the 4 years traditionally and finish my degree. And so there wasn't really a lot of guidance on how like post grad or post undergrad help and establishing yourself post your bachelor's degree. And so yeah, there was just a lot of like things that I needed to like get in order. And although like my dream school accepted me and like I have friends there, and like I have my high school best friends, like 3 of them lived there and moved in that area, and so I knew that I would have people and, you know, support. That wasn't necessarily the problem. It was like, if I go to this school, it's a 2-year program, I would need to work on top of going to school in order to pay for an apartment that I would have to have in order to live there and go to school. And that just seemed like a lot of stress for me at the time, and things that I didn't want to necessarily think about. I would have to like obviously find a new job and things of that nature. And so I decided to do the online school because I could maintain my current job and have at least 2 years minimum, 3 years working there, and continue to build my skills and my knowledge and get experience, and I wouldn't have to like necessarily move out of my mom's unless I absolutely had to or needed to. And it allowed and afforded me to live a little bit more comfortably because I wasn't paying someone else rent and utilities and gas and and other additional bills that I would have had to have, and then transferring. At the time I didn't have like my own car either, so well, I had my own car, but it was going downhill really fast, and it was like sucking a lot of money out of me at the time, and it just didn't make a lot of sense at the time to buy a new car because I wasn't financially responsible. I was starting to become financially responsible, but I wasn't. And then I didn't have a job. If I would have moved, that would have been like security for me. And so I decided to do the online program. And the only thing with the online program is because it was online, I can only take so many classes. And although I was accelerated track, so online, I think it was like a 4-year program. And for normally, without, if you didn't have a BSW and if you didn't come from an accelerated and accredited school, you couldn't qualify for that aspect of their program. And so I think I went, it was supposed to be like a 3.5-year track, 3.5, 4-year track for the online students. And then it could have been, because I was accelerated, it was down to 2 years. So, yeah, I had less classes because I had already completed a lot of the classes in my BSW. And so I didn't have to go through the traditional like 3.5, 4-year track. They like cut it down significantly, and I had to take a stats class before I got into my master's. So I had to do that in that summer before and get like it approved, and I had to pass the class obviously for me to be like fully submitted into the program. So I at that time didn't know about licensing. I didn't know if I wanted to pursue that. I didn't know if that was something that I really wanted to do and was interested in. I just knew that I wanted to get my master's, and that was kind of like all I really thought about. I didn't really like think long term. I was just like in the trenches trying to finish school and trying to work and balance it all. And I was starting to be like really interested in traveling, and so it was just like a whole new world for me of like trying to adult but feeling very much mentally childlike, because I was in my early 20s at the time and didn't feel like I had a lot of life experience and, like I said, a lot of guidance on how and what I should be doing. And so my suggestion is, if you can find a mentor within the social work community, even if they're a few classes up from you, or if you are networking and going to conferences, whether they're local or out of the state or online, it's like if you connect with someone, if you see someone that's doing a training or something, ask them if they could like help guide you and lead you in making some decisions, if they can give you any recommendations or suggestions when you're needing some additional help and support in like navigating this profession, because it is such a broad profession. Like there's so many things that we can do, there's so many spaces that we could be in, that it's really hard, I think, to like really decide like what route you want to take. And so with my graduate program, I think they had 2 routes. I believe one was like administration and something else, and then the other one was like clinical. And so after doing some research, I decided to go clinical, and I started the program. And as I was finishing my program, they had started like the last year, so my second year in the program, started talking to us about like being licensed and like the benefits and the value of it. And all I heard was more money, guys. More money that you needed from me in order to get this LMSW. And then the second half is, but then I'll also make more money. Heard, I need to do that. And so I started to looking into taking my exam. And if I also have a suggestion, is to try to prepare to take your exam before you graduate. And you will have to follow up with them if you pass the exam, to send them like that you graduated, qualified, all those things. But it's just so much easier when you already know a lot of the things that you're supposed to do, your brain is already working on how to study and how to retain and, communicate knowledge in a way that's easier for you to process and digest, and then to be able to take an exam. And yeah, unfortunately, like right after I graduated, COVID hit. So a lot of things ended up shutting down, and so it just kind of like fell down to the waist. After I graduated, I ended up getting a job at a hospital after completing my practicum, and then working in the like outpatient inpatient side of the like medical system. And then, like I said, the big bid hole, came, and everything else was kind of put on hold. A lot of people didn't really know what was going on and how long this was going to last. And so, like I said, I just kind of like made sure that I was as present as possible to meet patient needs, to learn. I was still, doing the best that I could. I was around LCSWs. And so hearing their experiences and the things that they were able to do and the tax brackets that they were able to be in, I definitely wanted my hand in the pot. And so after talking to someone who I consider to be somewhat of a mentor for me in the social work field, I decided to continue to pursue my LMSW. So I went through the whole process of trying to figure out how to apply for my license and what else I needed to do, submitting all the supplemental documentation and getting all the signatures and the payment together. And I got approved to take and sit for my exam. And so I then set a date and I began studying. And I ended up passing, thankfully, on the first try. And so grateful for that. Literally cried in the car. And then it was like I felt really content and really happy with that process. I was working, and although we were like still in the middle, we were like in the middle of the bid when that happened, I was like going through a lot of grief as well, dealing with a significant loss in my life. And that was a huge transition for me with the like things that came after that loss. And just got myself into therapy. And after talking to my therapist, he explained and expressed that he thinks that I could help benefit the therapy environment and world. And, he was an LPC actually. And he was like, there's just so much that you can do. Like, I feel like you're kind of limiting yourself. And I never thought of it as limiting myself, just because I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to do 2 years more and then pay someone to do my supervision and things like that. But the regret that I have, which I'll get into another video about, is I wish that I would have asked more questions. I wish that I would have looked into it more. I wish that I would have asked. The problem is that I didn't have an actual social work supervisor. And so I didn't have anybody to help guide me and lead me. And the other LCSWs that I was around were out. Like, they had their license, the OCSW, for over 10 years minimum. And so I just felt like they were like, oh, I don't really know how the process works now. Like, I got mine so long ago. And so I then started to seek the support of my friend, who expressed that she had started a new job and they were asking her to do supervision, and they were actually like paying for it through a colleague. And so she had it in-house, and it just wasn't necessarily offered to me. A lot of my other colleagues were LMSWs, and as far as I knew, only one of them was in pursuit of their LCSW, like in clinical hours and supervision. And so the problem is that if you're already doing the work, guys, like you're already in the job, you're doing the things that you need to do, just start supervision. And I know that it costs a lot. There's some supervisors who do charge a bit. And I didn't really see a value in it, to be completely honest. I was like, oh, I think that I'm a pretty good social worker, and I still do think that about myself. But it is so nice to also process things with someone and to get additional feedback and validation about like some of the things that you're like, I think I did the right thing. I think I said the right thing. Sorry, that's my Amazon. And it's just so nice to be in supervision. So I had started to think about it, but it just felt like a big task at that time in my life. And like I said, I wasn't really sure how to navigate it. I also was in the process of wanting to move. And so I didn't want to start something and then have to do a whole bunch of paperwork and then refigure out the whole process and moving to another state. Regardless, I think that I should have done it. And I regret not doing it and starting the process regardless. And it made sense to me, and it still does make sense. However, now I'm like, I could be in a whole different tax bracket and getting additional opportunities. And yeah, it just, if you're thinking about even just a little bit getting your LCSW and you already have your LMSW, or you're in the process of being able to sit, or you're studying for your LMSW, just go ahead and pursue your LCSW, because you're already working, so you might as well try and find a job that A, will pay for it or reimburse you for it. Or if you may not even have to pay for it, it may be already provided in-house. And so when I moved to Tennessee and got this job, I was able to get the support that I needed in navigating this space and applying for supervision. And I had colleagues who were already currently in supervision and just like working in the hospital and like clinical setting. There were people who could help navigate and provide suggestions and give me their opinions. And I trusted that, and I didn't feel alone, or that it was like too big of a burden or a barrier to getting the process started for my LCSW. And once I got approved for my LMSW here, then I started to pursue that. And it has been such a enlightening experience. And like I said, I'll do a whole nother video on that. But I want to leave you with this, is that if I would have been diligent and just did things like kind of back to back to back, I don't regret taking the year off and not pursuing my MSW right away. I don't regret my online experience for my MSW, just because I was able to pay each semester my full like total that was due. And then my last semester, I was just so blessed and got a $10,000 opportunity, like scholarship, and it paid literally for the rest of my semester. And I ended up even getting money back from that. And it was just like such a blessing, guys, and amazing opportunities that were afforded to me. And then like going into my job after I got my master's, I wish that I would have just like went ahead and sat for my exam and did that, and then started the process of supervision. But the more you know, right? Like if I were to be able to go back and tell myself something, that would be it. It's just like, go ahead and get it done. Like sit down, find a mentor or something. And so I'm urging you guys, if you have any opportunity to do that, do it. If you can take your LMSW, take it. If you can start supervision, start it, because you're already you should be doing some type of like clinical work, or in an environment where you're able to do some clinical work as your MSW, and you might as well reap some of the benefits of it and get yourself into more rooms, more opportunities, and explore different interventions that you could be implementing, and put you in different spaces with people that you never probably thought, in a different tax bracket. Like it just opens up so many opportunities and doors. And yeah, I just wish that I would have done that, because I probably would have had my LCSW probably 4 years at this point, 4 or 5 years at this point, if I had done things like right after. I'm working with a colleague now who did that. Like as soon as she finished her MSW, I think she either took her exam before she graduated or right after she graduated. She started a job. Luckily, the job was able to provide her with the supervision for free, and she started her LCSW, and she's about to finish now. And she's so much younger than me. Not so much, but she's a few years younger than me. And so like I'm really proud of her for just like being diligent, and she is like getting it done. And so I do wish that I would have been able to do that. It is a minimum of 2 year process. I can't remember the exact month. I think I do. So I'm a year and like 3.5 months in, and I can definitely see the finish line. I am going through my clinical hours, adding them up, and my clinical supervision hours. And we just upped my clinical supervision hours just because I am doing so much clinical work. Now that I'm doing IOP, I'm still meeting patient needs. I'm doing a lot of like patient care services, and we are like literally overbooked. So I am doing a lot of patient care. And so I just wanted to leave you guys with this. It's like my journey. This is my experience. This is the like raw, but I just wanted to be real and honest with you guys about like the things that I wish that I would have done differently and how I've grown and learned from that. And if I can get someone else to feel a little bit more confident in their journey and get confirmation about like, okay, yeah, I should and I need to do that, I urge you to do it. Just ask those questions. And if you want me to or do a video where I give you guys questions that you should be asking during interviews about clinical supervision and about like reimbursement or paying, or if they have it in-house, I'm more than happy to do that for you guys. I'm more than happy to tell you kind of like the process of obtaining and maintaining 2 licenses in 2 different states. I know reciprocity is something that is in the works, and so I'm really excited to see how that navigates, especially because I don't know if this is like my home, but also it's like less work in needing to maintain like certain specifics for this license and certain specifics for this license. I think that that would make things a lot easier. So yeah, I will say that if you have any if you don't want any limitations on your professional career, if you want to open as many doors for yourself as possible, if you want to make as much money as possible, if you want to grow yourself in your clinical skills, if you want to learn more about social work in the profession, if you want to be connected to other professionals and other amazing opportunities, getting a supervisor has been a great experience for me, just because I work really well with my supervisor. And I interviewed 3 supervisors before I made my decision. And so I am really urging you guys to just like go for it, do it, because I don't know if you'll regret it per se, and it will open up so many opportunities, and there'll be less doors, especially in our current environment and professional field. Right now it's so hard to find jobs and find stability in jobs. And so if there's any way that you can secure that if I were to lose my job today, I can go into an independent practice and be able to sustain income with the clients that I have, I want to encourage you to do that. Just think about yourself in the long term. And once you're done, you're done. It could be done between your MSW, getting your LMSW, and getting your LCSW. It could be done in 3.5 years if you are really diligent on it and have the consistency of clinical hours, and you're able to find a supervisor before or at like immediately after you can start, after you get your LMSW, you can start supervision. And so yeah, I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it's a long one, and so I apologize, but yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.